Alright, so I'm going to be doing a 2011 MachinaTown Gadget deck profile. This is the deck I am currently running, and so far it has worked out pretty well for me. So alright, let's start. To begin, we've got 3 Machina gear frames. It's pretty self-explanatory, searches out every card with Machina and its name to my hand, including itself. After that, we've got 3 Machina Fortress. That is the boss monster of the deck, so running 3 is, I find, a necessity. Next, we've got 6 gadgets. That is pretty much a staple in Machina decks. They almost constantly give you something to discard for Machina Fortress's summoning, and they float themselves to the hand. They can also provide a pretty handy attack force in some certain cases. Next, I've got 3 Inchigear Gadgetron Dragons. They are a staple in any MachinaTown deck. They're better than Inchigear Golem because he can't be special summoned from the graveyard by any effect except for Gear Towns. After that, I've got 2 Cyber Dragons. They are very good for if you've gone second or if you're trying to make a comeback. And if I'm dueling against another opponent who's using machines as well, I can fuse my opponent's entire field with this guy. Then I got 1 Scrap Recycler. He's pretty much a draw engine in this deck. That I've got Card Trooper. He mills. He's a beat stick, and he's also a draw engine. Then I've got 1 Gores. He essentially prevents my opponent from OTKing me and allows me to provide some sort of a comeback. After that, I've got 3 Gear Towns. It's a MachinaTown deck. This guy essentially allows me to get Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon out extremely easily. After that, I've got 2 Smashing Grounds. I've been in situations where all I've had on the field are gadgets, and my opponent has some pretty strong monsters out, so I like to have those to be able to take them out quickly. I've got 2 Mystical Space Typhoons, staple. Limiter Removal, staple in machine decks. Monster Reborn, staple, also starter deck Yugi. Dark Hole, staple, starter deck Joey. Cold Wave, staple if I can win without using limiter removal. And Pot of Avarice, because if I lose my Scrap Recycler, or if my Card Trooper milled a monster I don't want in the graveyard, I can restock the deck and draw with this card. Okay, on to the traps. I've got 2 Magical Hats. This card essentially allows me to stall if my opponent is about to beat me, and at the same time it can allow me to get up to 2 Gadgetron Dragons out in 1 turn. Next, I've got 2 Compulsory Evacuation Devices. They are essentially a synchro killer. This deck doesn't synchro at all. And also, one thing I found useful for them is that I can shoot a gear frame or a gadget back to my hand, and then proceed to search with it again and float something back to my hand, especially with gear frame. I can get a fortress in my hand. Next, I got 1 Bottomless Trap Hole. I'm trying to get another one. I got a 7 Tools of the Bandit. Essentially allows me to stop my opponent from stopping my assaults with their own traps. I've got 1 Torrential Tribute. Very helpful card. And 1 Mirror Force. Staple. Finally, my very small extra deck is 2 Chimera Tech Fortress Dragons, just because I can fuse them with myself, with my opponent, and they create a very quick beat stick. And with this deck, I am planning on side decking Zombie World and Books of Life to basically stop my opponent from beating me with things like System Down, Magnetic Mosquito, cards that essentially will shut down machine decks. I also plan on side decking some Swift Scarecrows, because they essentially allowed me to be sort of a battle fader, but keep the whole machine thing going. And besides that, there's really not much else I'm thinking about putting in the side deck besides some staple things like Nobleman of Crossout for Gravekeepers, and even sometimes Crevice into a Different Dimension for 1 attribute decks. But besides that, if anybody's got any tips, comments, anything, just leave them below, and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you very much.